Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Big Book Podcast, Episode 8. This recording is on Sunday, February 25th. Today with me, I have my fabulous co-hosts, Automaton 2000. Say hello to the folks, Automaton.
I thought we were still going to do the gimmick where I'm Dan, or I think I'll be Namer next week. Tune in, folks, we'll find out.
We're all no-name Namer in our hearts. And also joining us again this week, we have Frank. Podcasts, Frank, not TV's Frank. Frank, how are you today?
Sorry, I'm skirmishing. I'll be back in an hour. Thanks.
You need to put down the phasers. Jenos Adanian joining us again. Welcome, Jenos. How was your day? How's your weekend?
Good so far. Ended up at Aldi without a quarter, so I audibled to Market Basket, and I found some Mike's Hot Honey, which I've been in search of, so very excited about that.
They really hate it when you try to jam a nickel in there. It doesn't come out so easy. So we're at Aldi to be thrifty, but that doesn't work. Today we have a few bits of news to cover for Star Trek Timelines, our favorite game that we do not have featured anywhere in the keywords for this podcast. So something we need to take a look at, I think. Well, actually, the big news is over the past couple of weeks, we've had a little bit of a new channel to discuss our favorite Star Trek games. Tilting Point Games has opened up a new Discord channel. So for those of you who are so inclined to take in even more Star Trek Timelines information, hop on over to see them. They promise some moderation and some good conversation of all sorts and types. Frank, Jenos, Otto, any of you have joined and or moderated the new Discord that you want to give a little bit of update on what kind of things are going on over there?
Jenos is beaming right now. Before I throw it to him, it is discord.com/invite/Star Trek Tilting Point. And they do say in their announcement they're hosting 2 events every month. One running right now gives you some dilithium for submitting a unique bridge cruise setup. So go ahead, Jenos.
Yes, I did join, and I applied and was accepted on a probationary basis to be a moderator. And the most I've had to do so far was to correct someone who posted a question in like 8 different channels. So light moderation so far.
I'd like to meet your probation officer.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad things are going well over there. I went ahead and tried to submit the contest that they decided to open up with was to create a romantic Star Trek bridge. Of course, I think I had the exact same submission as like probably a half dozen other people with the romantic scene from everyone's favorite Voyager episode, Threshold. But they still taking submissions there. If you like some free dilithium, #free dilithium, you might want to join. Also, a lot of discussion about Star Trek Legends. Anybody still playing Star Trek Legends?
Hold on. Is there a crickets noise thing we can hit here?
That silence speaks very loudly.
Don't even try.
It was a fun game when it was on iOS, and it was interesting in concept to put it on PC. And I'm trying really hard to say positive things here. I enjoyed literally the first 12 hours of the game from when it launched on the 20th until someone found out that you can do naughty things on the back end, and I went into PvP, and I was quickly smited by someone who was level 99 on the first day, which I don't know, for math fans, that's not possible. So, yeah. Rest in peace.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know really much about it. I think I need to still pick it up. But the more Star Trek games, the better, right? So, speaking of our favorite Star Trek game, though, Timelines, there's another survey up. I guess the first one went over very well. So if you'd like to take part in our survey part 2, it actually goes into quite a bit more detail. Tilting Point is hosting another survey to let us know our favorite preferences. They're asking a little bit deeper questions this time, like your favorite narrative, also your favorite art. So if you feel strongly about the softer points of the Star Trek Timelines game, you might want to hop over and give them a little feedback. Let them know you're still interested in improving the game with your own favorite portions. Jenos, what's your favorite artwork from the past year that's come out?
Oh, the past year? Oh, geez. I'll be honest, I kind of liked Assimilated Bashir. Was that the last year?
Yeah, it was.
He made the portal, didn't he?
He did, yep. Yeah, he just made it in, so. Yep.
Assimilated Bashir, then. My favorite art before that was Prince Bashir, so I'm all about the Bashirs. Oops, all Bashirs.
And Otto, I think that you've had a couple of Chakotay's come out, with or without face. Which one?
Oh, dude, I can't. Don't even throw it to me. I'm gonna. I'd start ranting about the very first question in this important timeline survey is about the Moopsy avatar. I'm like, is that really where your priorities lie? So, throw it to Frank or Si. Don't get me worked up.
Otto has just announced his 9th retirement this week.
I misinterpreted. I'll have to admit it. And this is my boneheaded moment. When I was answering the question about art, I completely misinterpreted. And Otto will appreciate when it asked the best art that I had seen. I actually said Twilight Zone because I consider many of the episodes to be art. So literally into the forum, I typed in about my favorite episode of Twilight Zone that we've watched during our rewatch. Keep an eye on the Trek Time channel. It's another side project that we're working on. If you have any interest at all, it'll be fun for you to ride along with us.
Dan,
what
that's
an excellent plug for Twilight Zone Talks.
That's probably the most.
Just know.
That's probably the most coherent answer they got on that survey, by the way. So good job.
We have a mega coming up. The next mega has been announced. Coming up, I believe in about, is it a week, 2 weeks? We have the Tattered Delta mega. We have a new mega recurring. It's going to be concerning Flight Janeway. I'm just going to run down the list of announced names that we'll be competing for, but we'll get into some detail when we get into our new cruise segment. But for the record here, in the first week coming up, well, we actually are earning Siska and Kulla right now will be the featured event. So yeah, it does begin next week. Later on, we'll be playing for Motura, the twin mistresses of evil, Wixiban. Isn't that you can make other websites on it, right? We have Michael Jenos, one of the brothers, acting chief engineer Jim Carey, Facepalm Paris. He must have heard all the jokes I just tried to tell. And of course, a 4-star Voyager Borg Queen. Interesting. First 4-star Borg Queen we're going to be getting. The tempo for this mega will be switched up a little bit. Recently, in recent months, even over the past year, most of the megas have followed the format of starting out with a skirmish to let us all refresh our components, level our crew, and then followed by some other event types. But this time we're going to be starting with a galaxy. Then on to the skirmish in the second week, and then finishing traditionally as a faction galaxy hybrid, and then ending on a faction for the last month. So talking a little bit about this change in format, Frank, I'll start with you. What are your feelings on mixing it up a little bit here?
They heard the cries of the public saying, we want more skirmish, less faction, less galaxy. And so in very quick succession, they are saying, hey, here's skirmish with new ships. And hey, it's going to be a themed mega, because you like themes in your narratives about Voyager and villains. Kind of Voyager villains. You could argue Janeway is a Voyager villain.
I'm sure
She
Bragg
will get
stands
no
it.
argument from me.
Yeah, she did strand her whole crew 70,000 light years away. So, I give them points for all the turmoil that the company itself has gone through, and the staff turnovers and changes and headaches that I'm sure that they've experienced. Knock on wood, the ship has continued to sail. Sure, there's been a hiccup or an outage or a game break weekly, pretty much, but new content keeps coming. The train don't stop, and they've found a way to make 1,500 crew out of this IP that we love so dearly. And for fans of Motura, I'm sure they are doing backflips right now.
Yeah, the first thing I noticed is it's Janeway and then a bunch of one-episode also-rans, or real minor characters. But I got to back up a second because you made me think about something, Frank. Janeway, the villain. All those Ocampa that she saved by blowing up the array, they'll all be dead by the time they get home because they only live 9 years. So why didn't you just take your crew back home? Whatever.
The deep lore of Voyager is starting to come through here. Are you saying that there's plot holes In Star Trek Voyager, guys?
Not in Voyager and all the other shows, but don't bash
Okay,
Voyager.
right.
I do love it.
Well, anyways, I think one thing we can all agree on is Janeway has the highest kill count of any Star Trek character. So, we are currently competing. Yep, this week in a hybrid skirmish, starting out with the Galaxy and then finishing with a skirmish. Works for my schedule, I guess, but good luck to anybody else that's listening to this and has maybe achieved a good copy of the Seska and Kula card. If anybody would like to review our notes on that card, you can go back to episode 7, where we talk in detail about office chairs. In the meantime, we do have a couple of updates for you. At the recording of our last podcast, we didn't have full information on a very interesting turn in the way that we're competing for our Continuum missions. If you get to complete the epic level of Continuum missions, starting last week and into this week, and foreseeably for the next 2 weeks, hopefully, we'll be able to compete for Ubiquitous Borg Queen as the epic level reward. So, folks, have all of you, I hope, earned your copies of Ubiquitous Borg Queen and any challenges to claiming her? Jenos, how's your experience been so far?
Smooth sailing. I, at this point, have a stable of 6 crew that I use every week. They're all 4 out of 4 unlocked, and it's easy to get through, and then I refresh for 50 dilithium. Even though you're not organically gaining 250 every week, I run through a second time. Smooth sailing.
Excellent. Otto, I know that your account is one that could probably use Ubiquitous Borg Queen. How have you been doing in the Continuum missions?
I actually did. Frank joked about it, but whatever. I retired and then switched accounts and then unretired days later. So that's just, that's just the way I play. But I do have 2 out of 2 copies so far. And I've heard, I'll get this quote later, but Ben was asked about, what was it, 3 weeks ago now? Asked about, because people had submitted, there aren't enough medical nodes. We can't get the qubits, enough of those to equip our crew to finish these missions. And he said something along the lines, I don't want to misquote him, but we're looking at how this affects players' wallets going forward. So, which tells me, as long as Jenos keeps buying those 50 deal refreshes, they're going to keep not giving us enough qubits to craft the equipment. So, but that has been, yeah, and thanks, Jenos. That has been kind of a groundswell, people asking for a switch up there. The fact that it's happening at the same time as their new big exclusive crew reveal is actually not a great look, because it would be nice if everyone could have an easier or even possible shot at getting this crew. But like we talked about 2 weeks ago on the episode, she is definitely worth getting. So if you haven't yet, try to put in that effort.
Frank, what are your medical crew to conquer those nasty... I think one of the nodes this week is like 3,500 skill number. What are you doing?
Yeah, so, okay, first of all, disclaimer. I do not play like everyone else, or efficiently. Do not copy my style. Do not use me to judge your own progress. Etc., etc. Void where prohibited. I run several missions a week to try and unlock 4 slots on crew and then throw them on a voyage and go pick 4 new crew, because, not sure if you're aware, there's achievements for this lovely feature. And one of the achievements is unlocking the individual equipment slots. And did you know that achievement goes up so high that you basically have to unlock equipment slots on every single crew in the game right now? Which is insane, because somebody who doesn't play the game designed that achievement. So I'm trying my best to plow through it, even though the achievement started 3 weeks after the feature, and you didn't get credit for what you did in those first 3 weeks. So I'm missing credit for several hundred crew, but that's okay. I'm not mad.
It's okay. You can open up a ticket on the new Tilting Point Discord and see how they attend to it.
They declined my ticket and told me LLAP. So, every week,
Thank you, Riker.
Yes, that was beautiful. Every week, med is shortchanged, followed behind kind of science and engineering. It depends on the week. They lag in second and third place, but med always has like 1 node, and that's it. I've been unlocking, of course, crew, and I've been unlocking all these great med people, and it came around to this week, and as it turns out, I don't have enough research components or database, whichever one it is, to actually equip a single med piece on a med person. So I don't have a med person that can actually clear it. I have Dareth, who that node that you're referencing is for brutal and desperate or something like that. And if I did Dareth and he got both the trait bonuses and you remove those from the total required skill to clear it, and with all my starbase and collection bonuses on Dareth, I still need one 550 piece of equipment, and I have to roll the absolute top number of his roll to clear it. I can't do that. So I can't clear the highest level this week. So no Borg Queen for me. I'm crying. It's very devastating. I might cry during this podcast.
Yeah, that's a strange place to be in. I wonder what's causing that. I think we get the impression that these missions are procedurally generated, so it's just a random selection of whatever matches the nodes, and that means that if we're on the bad end of RNG, that we're not going to get the databases that we need or whatever pops up. And if you've skipped a week or just not cared about the feature up until this point, you absolutely are going to be at a deficit of certain items. I guess the only way to really fight that is and this is a good shout, Frank, that the nodes do give you some measure of help if you're able to match traits, but it does require a very specific crew, and they just may not be anywhere near optimal. Some of those trait matches are going to be very specific to sometimes older, lower tier crew. So it's going to be an uphill battle. How do we solve it? Hopefully if they allow us to replicate the qubits, that might be a way to go. I don't foresee that happening. I don't foresee a whole lot of changes or tweaks being made in the short term, apart from on maybe at the serving end. I get the feeling that a lot of the work that they've done on automating Continuum missions really hasn't landed quite right. So there's still a lot of manual intervention being done. So I hope to see a little bit of smoothing on that. Maybe they could offer some packs. Did we ever have any sales offerings on qubit packs? I think we had some free packs that we got to open initially. They gave us a few.
Not on qubits, but they have been throwing quantum energy, which I don't think anybody needs into these cash offers. So,
someone, I think someone who I can't remember who it was in Discord had mentioned that the unique equipment takes more quantum energy than the standard, and they were running a lot of crew through the system and equipping them, and they were running out of that. So that particular person might be in that situation.
So well, call them out. I want to know who to blame on this. I want to hear a name.
I can't remember. It was someone
good.
In some fleet that plays in the game.
Well, I'm glad we could narrow that down.
But actually, that unique equipment also takes fewer qubits, so there is a trade-off there. And if we're being pinched on med right now, it might be worth looking at that. I want to ask you guys, do you enjoy Continuum missions?
I wish they had a warp. It's the same core gameplay mechanic that we've been in since day one, solving the galaxy map initially. So there's while there's bigger numbers, this one goes to 11. I'm not I'm not ecstatic about running more away missions that I can't warp after I've completed them. And Jenos, to your point, once you've hit the refresh button and you're going through all the same missions again, how much time would that save you if you could just warp the ones you've already completed and kind of earn your bits again?
Yeah, that would save me some time. You might be foregoing the QP for your team, perhaps, if you were just warping them. I mean, I enjoy, twice a day pretty much going through and, thinking critically about what I'm doing for a few minutes twice a day. What's nice is that the chronotons that you're using, they count towards the objective events like the Crunchy Crons and the Unleashed, which is nice. And they count towards your dailies as well. So if maybe you're on a crunch for your crons, you can potentially get up to say 6 a day, even if you just have the free ones. So that's nice. Along with your cadets, I mean, you're pretty close to being done with all of your 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all know you've been beating the drum to bring back expedition events. This is just not going to happen. I'm sorry.
I'm fine with it.
It's as close as you're going to get with these.
Well, all this talk about finding the right engineering and med crew, to make it through Continuum Missions. Maybe that should bring us to our new crew segment. We actually have one to lead off with. It's going to be Motura. Sorry, I was looking at his art. He is leading off with an Eng primary, dip secondary, and a little bit of med to finish himself out. There's a lot to say about this crew. I don't know if all of it's going to be good, but gosh darn it, we're going to discuss them to death. So, okay, folks. So for anybody competing in Enemies Closer, the leading Galaxy event for next month's Mega, you'll be competing for, in the top 1,500, a gold copy of the newest Vidian on the block, Motura. Jenos, what do you have for me on Motura? What's his use? Why is he a prize?
For me, the reason that he's a prize is his trait list, outside of the fact that he is named after a very famous nebula in the Alpha Quadrant. He's unboxing with 4 collections, including the Voyager collection, which is kind of a halvesy. We're going to see skill boosts every other milestone there. So 4 collections isn't bad if you can grab yourself 1 or 2 copies. When he gets into the portal 12 to 18 months from now, you can finish him up with some crew retrievals, but honestly, there's not a whole lot else that I like about this crew. Anyone else have anything they do like about this crew?
If I had a time machine and I could go back 1 year before we've had all these great cards come out, and before Continuum Missions, which kind of shifted the power narrative of Voyages, I'd be really excited for this skill set, because it's an off the beaten path skill set that reminds you a little bit of like Stranded Quark or something like that. And I would always want these, and I'd want several copies of these, because that would help me achieve 12 and 14-hour voyages to try and get those elusive rewards from Voyages. But unfortunately, that was a year ago, and now he just kind of debuts with a bit of a flat fall in his power.
The Big Book LLC has granted me permission to plug Trek Time, and we did review their episode, The Phage, and it's a great episode, so that's what I can say about Motura. I think about Dareth, obviously. They're both Vidians, and Dareth has been known, well, since the introduction of Fleet Boss battles, as an all-star there. He's a good healer with a quick cycle who does, one of the few who does an attack boost, which is nice for the uptime, even though he's not going to be your main damage dealer there. But I see 3 collections for both. They'll both get a 4th with Voyager. Motura, the issue is, do you really want to add 4 more stars so that he can voyage for you? Like, I know the skill set is good, but you're kind of running on a treadmill there. So I find that more theoretical value than realistic, like Dareth is. I mean, you can grab him from 1 star from retrieval, and he'll probably do more for you there. So I guess my question is, why has Power Creep not done a little bit more for this particular crew? Why are they don't run everything by the Big Book, but why are we still releasing Tier 6 crew and expecting a high return on player investment there?
Yeah, I just wish we could get some strong engineering med crew that really had the same power level. I don't think we've really seen anything fantastic since Dr. Kovich. I think we're overdue for that. Dr. Kovich being a recurring mega card, that'll lead us into our next recurring mega card, also earnable next week if you hit the mid-tier threshold. Concerning Flight Janeway. A little bit more to say about this card. So a few things we need to talk about. First, for our players who are earning the 4 free copies of her over the course of the Mega, whether to put the star on, and also what value does this crew have off the shelf. Let's start this time with Frank. So Frank, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your roster, your very venerable roster. Does Concerning Flight Janeway have any play value for you?
Well, sure. Every card, I mean, even, Motura, who we just spoke about, he has value in that since I collect every card, I will collect him, and I will even run him through Continuum Missions, and then he will go away forever in the freezer immediately. He's not going to be a new card I keep out. Janeway, I will. Janeway concerned about flight because she's flying on Spirit. That's I assume what her name means. I don't know.
By the way, if we want to do a podcast about our terrible flight experiences, we could fill a few hours there.
She's got she's got good stat. This is kind of a polar opposite of the Motura segment we just had. She's good in her engineering skill, very good. She's got a great engineering science double skill lineup, and her triplicate, or triplet, oh my lord, triplet, is fantastic. She's the best Janeway, I'd argue, long having been reigned previously by the old Vice Admiral Janeway or Determined Janeway, another Mega Janeway from a long time ago. They still voyage for a lot of people because it's a 4 out of 5 giveaway. And eventually people put a star on it, if not immediately down the line. So for a recurring Mega, she's got power. She's got power to ride your shuttles. She's got power to do voyages. She's got use. She's got traits. And then at that point, it just kind of goes, how often are you going to use her?
Well, Otto, I hear that Frank is going to be not just duplicating, but triplicating concerning Flight Janeway. That's a high praise. If I were the type of player that just decided to quit and then maybe pick up a brand new copy of a new account and start competing for concerning Flight Janeway, where would I want to start? We've recently maybe a newer player has already completed their Sydney LaForge. Maybe they already have some pretty strong eng on their roster. Why concern yourself with concerning Flight Janeway, Otto?
I'm going to pull this one out of mothballs. I think we used to reference this, but when you're like Captain Kirk, when you're climbing the mountain, you want 3 points of contact with the rock face. She's a good Voyager. She's got event value. She's got collection value. And your 4th point is, as a recurring card, you only need that last star. So there's definitely enough meat on the bones here. In fact, I do want to talk about that event value. If you're checking out the Discord or forums and you see some old talking heads, Janeway's a main cast, good event crew. Well, that was true in 2017. 7 events, great year, and I think a lot of players still remember that. 1 event in 2013, 1 in 2022, none in 2021. And that sounds like a bad thing, but I'm going to pull another old chestnut out of the mothballs. Hashtag follow the traits. Last year, she had events for Explorer, for Voyager, for Desperate, for Federation, for Inspiring, and a variant event. That is a lot of chances I was going to say to pull her out of cryo. I don't think she's going to cryo anytime soon. A lot of chances to get your value back on the weekends. She'll be running voyages regularly, and the collection value is a little less tangible because you don't always get to plug in the crew like you do on shuttles, but it's certainly there. And so for a crew that you're getting 4 stars on, no-brainer last sight for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, I tend to agree, although I'm willing to listen to any more opinions that you have, Jenos. So I don't see a whole lot here in terms of ship battle capability. We sometimes see a little bit of side utility for newer players on these mega crew. This one really has none, but talking about the collections, certainly there's some value there. I guess the question is, if she's good enough to keep, then she's got to be good enough to keep at 5 stars. So when are you going to put your 5th star on her? Is that going to be citing her up one time in the very first week to run the benefit through the whole mega? Do you wait for the end for recaps? How do you do your 5th star in a great crew like this?
I wait for the end. Generally, I have, as an elderly player, usually have enough crew with the mega recurring trait to get me through, even though usually the mega recurring legendary is the best squad share if I'm fortunate enough to be the squad leader. And I like to use the recap packs to potentially star up some of the legendaries that I've accrued. Usually I run them until I hit a 5th star on any of the legendaries, or if I go like 0 for 15 on legendaries, which is what I did on the last one, which sucked. So at that point, I'll cider at the end. So I'm a end cider / recapper.
All right. I hope we've given our podcast listeners a little bit to chew on for how to approach concerning Flight Janeway. Equally important decision for people who are spenders is whether or not to buy into the campaign. And we do have our new campaign crew announced in Away Team Detmer. A little bit of an interesting, maybe a divisive crew this week for our Big Book podcast host staff. So I'm going to start off with some of the assenting opinions here. Otto, would you please tell me your initial impressions from looking at Away Team Detmer? Where's the value in buying this premium $25 upgraded Ultra Mega campaign to receive your 4 free copies plus sites.
All right, first of all, you just trick questioned me, Dan, because I did not say that I would buy the suit. Oh, you almost got me to say it, the Uber campaign. I'm not a spender these days. But if I were to, I think I'd be excited about this card. Voyage power is plenty fine, especially for a non-command dip something crew. Shuttle power is their top 5 base, which, that is not something to buy a crew for, but if it's a tack on, it's great there. 4 collections, kind of the baseline for a crew that gets me excited these days, but a couple more viable traits, which I'm sure we'll see tick upwards. And then, I just mentioned Dareth a couple crew ago. This is kind of like Dareth, not quite as good, but another +6 attack with a strong hull repair. If you're a newer player looking for a shot in the arm, this could be a crew who ticks multiple boxes for you. I will admit the skill set actually doesn't do much for me. I haven't checked recently, but last I did, Command Sec Engineering was the 3rd most populous. So, it doesn't really hurt because you do want second command for shuttles and the voyage powers there. I think an all-around strong crew, probably one of the better offerings. But I do get your point that sometimes it can be more of what you may already have, especially for established players.
Mm-hmm. And Jenos, you were also up on this crew. Tell me a little bit about what sold you on Away Team Detmer.
Thank you. I like the voyage power here. It's top 30 Voyager. That's not going to fall as quickly as your CDS crew that are in the 50, 60, 70 range. The skill set I do like. I like second and Eng in the top 2. Even though of course Discovery is ending and we have celebrated multiple times the end of Discovery Megas. Who knows? We might still get a Discovery 5 mega event some point in 2024 or 2025. And she's got more viable traits that we can jump in there. We're still waiting for more love for pilot, potentially some engineer, tactician, desperate. Those are all viable traits, and also many of them hit on antimatter. And oddly enough, and I think they may correct this in the future, is she's obviously wearing an EV suit, but is missing the EV suit hidden tag. So to go along with her 4 current collections, we're looking at probably EV suit being added as a 5th. And even though 2 of her collections, Discovery and then the newer Explorer, are halvesy collections, I'm still counting that as well above average as far as her collection potential there. So.
Yeah, good thoughts. I'm gonna present the opposition for a second, and then Frank, you'll get the final word on this crew. So I just want to point out that it is a very populous triplet, and for those of you who are trying to flesh out your voyage roster, you may find that she loses seats to 1 and or 2 chances taken Kirks if you've been able to achieve the highest levels of bridge for fleet boss battles. Now we don't generally advocate dupes, but there's a lot of reasons for this one particular chances taken Kirk crew to really get a second copy. We're not going to get into that on this podcast, but I do want to point out that if you're worried about her not making voyages, and if you need total value on each card that you're pulling out of the campaigns, that might be a concern. Also, we received a 4 out of 5 Valeo Beta Lawn recently as part of a past mega. So players over the past 6 months, may have somebody very similar on their crew. Recently, the Portal release has brought to us Wanted Mariner, same skill set. And for our big spenders, EVC Boimler is still peeking his head out as somebody that may make the same voyage seats here. So is there anything additional that we should be looking at to really sell people on Away Team Detmer? Frank, where do you stand?
Well, so I'm going to shock a lot of people here. Obviously, the age-old expression is the campaign is the campaign. The crew is just a bonus. You buy the campaign for all the stuff it comes with. The crew, whether good nor bad, is just part of that package. I put on my Frank hat for a minute. Of course, I buy the campaign. Of course, I get the crew, and I use the crew, and I like crew that have power. Power is good in this game. Yay. But taking off that hat for a minute, we have a very niche game from a very niche fandom. Even though Star Trek is huge, it's niche compared to bigger fandoms, what have you. And then the mobile game market is even smaller than that. So we have a small base to go off of, and the people who think like me or that I could give advice to who play like me is probably a very, very small percentage of the larger player base. So I'm going to take the side of the larger player base right now that are not paying $25 a month. Your game will not suffer from not getting this crew. This crew is perfectly fine. However, there are free versions out there that you can retrieve right now, or that you have likely already gotten from playing in megas or just day-to-day gameplay in the last year to 2 years, to speak nothing of Chances Taking Kirk, that you will be able to progress through just fine. And when she eventually hits the portal a year from now, whenever, if you are the biggest, Detmer fan, you can retrieve her. But there's nothing compelling for someone who is not already a $25 a month spender. There's no reason for you to jump and get this crew, because it's not going to change your game at all. Unless you just started a brand new account, and this would be your first 4 out of 5 gold.
Well, good discussion, everybody. We seem to be split down the middle, so we'll let you, the listener, decide.
I gotta jump. Hold on. I gotta jump back in, because I actually have more to say.
Now, hold on a minute.
Hold on a minute.
Hold on, I have more to say.
I hadn't looked at this crew too closely because they are a campaign crew, so it's not someone I was going to acquire. But I see some more stuff on here. I'm never going to bet on a Discovery Mega, but we have their last television season coming up, and since they've already had 5, like, you can't definitively say, oh, they won't go. They'd never go for 4. Oh, no, now they'll never do the 5th one. They'll never do the 6th one. Well, maybe they will. So that's not the end of the world, but it's something. And besides that, she has 6 viable traits that aren't Human Federation or Starfleet, so they will help her there. I also see probably the most important thing that I think we all missed. Among non-med crew, the number 1 antimatter seat. Why does that matter? Med has a much smaller pool of traits. They're going to hit more often. That kind of inflates the ranking there. So for her to grab the top spot there, she'll grab a trait match 88% of the time. That is very high, and so she may edge out crew that are statistically either equal or slightly stronger because of that trait match. So again, I'm not professing you should go buy the campaign, but I think the crew on her own merits is very good and worthy of the Tier 2 status.
Yeah, this is a game of inches, and what makes a best-in-slot character can only be sometimes just a couple of points. Jenos, did you want to add anything else, or were you just jumping on the... Okay, all right.
I'm making jokes.
Okay, good.
No, I did have a thought. So maybe just a yes or no question. Would you compete for this crew if they were an event? Would you pull this crew out of a 6-pack? Yes or no, round the table.
Yeah, I'll start. I would absolutely compete for this crew without a doubt. This is a playable crew, and we could always use more of those. I'm not going to spend for something I already have, though.
Frank, I want to hear from you, because I think you may have a slightly different perspective than some.
Events, yes, she would be a absolute rock star if she was an event prize, and people would go nuts for it because it's Chances Taking Kirk light as far as skills go. And unless, I'm not knocking on Otto, I promise, unless you just started a new account this week, you've got a 25% hull healer on your fleet boss battles. But if you don't, hey, here's a great one. And the fact that she's a powerful Voyager, that's all the more reason to go for. If it were a Tuesday pack, which are this, it makes me want to spit on the floor like the Iron Sheik used to. USA, hot Tuesday packs, hot. She would be the best Tuesday pack crew they've put out in forever. She's worth going for if you collect crew, but if you're trying to get by day to day without spending a lot of money or spending it all, you can wait.
Let me tell you something, brother. We don't get enough wrestling references on this pod, so thank you for that, Frank.
Let me tell you something, brother.
The bane, Jenos, you're feeling the pain. The bane of everyone who asks for quick yes or no answers never gets them. So here I go. I've been playing, I think, 4 or 5 years on and off on this account, and it's pretty well stocked. I have 1 copy of Chances Taking Kirk. I don't have them fully fused, and I didn't start a second copy, nor will I. So I think we actually talked a lot on the Discord this week about, fleets, just the fleets who are at the very top, who are farming hard, boss for honor, or on the bleeding edge, very tiny percent of the population. So Chances Taking Kirk, as great as he is, I'm not going to hold that against her. So yes, I would definitely try to get 3 or 4 copies if I could. pack, I might throw a few out, but to Dan's point, she's not special. If she was Motura's skill set with all the same numbers, yeah, I'd throw some dilithium out there.
Fantastic. Well, the good news is that if for anybody that was wishing that they could buy Away Team Detmer in a pack, they may have their prayers answered with our next crew we're going to talk about. A little bit of a preview of the future here. Coming in a pack, we don't know the details yet, but we do know that human Silik is coming down the pipeline shortly. And as I read the current stats that we have in our crystal ball here, I'm going to read off Away Team Detmer's actual boosted skills here for you. So she is, of course, Sec Eng Command. That's 1878 in the primary, 1490 Eng, and 765 in the command. And then I'm going to fast forward to Human Silik here, who is a Security Engineering Command. The Sec is 1869, the Eng is 1493, and the command is 751. A matter of decimals, really, between the two of them. Of course, there are other ways that they differ, and certainly collection value and other things. But if you really wanted to buy this skill set and this relative power level and fill in a slot in your roster, behold, there may be either a six-pack or a mixed behold coming shortly to you. There's a little bit of a difference here. So Detmer is the healer. She's not what we call an optimal healer, but that's not really required for fleet boss battles so long as you reach a sufficient power level. A healer that's a little bit behind the curve is still great and can sometimes even be better for you. Human Silik has a little bit of a different arena ability. He looks to be a bit of a hammer here. I want to break this crew down a little bit for the people that might be buying in, and for our future listeners for when he hits the portal. What would sell you on the differences between Away Team Detmer, Human Silik, and their peers in this category? Jenos, we'll start with you this time. Looking at his page on bigbook.app, what kind of things are standing out to you here?
He has some more eclectic traits that Detmer doesn't have. He's got Suliban, of course, which will never be a collection. Shapeshifter, which we could potentially see, you never know. He's got Saboteur, he's got Duelist, he's got Crafty. So he's got some interesting traits that haven't yet hit. So I like him as a long-term project, potentially. It's unfortunate that he's in a pack, and I'm either going to have to wait for him to come into the portal or throw 4 sights on him if I want to jump into this pack or this hypothetical Nyx Behold. The reason that his tier is a bit lower is because even though he's got pretty strong voyage power just like Detmer does, he does not have those antimatter chances that she does.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, Frank, what else leaps off the page to you about Human Silik?
Well, he's human, and he's got a fantastic polo shirt and a nice mauve, looks like smooth jacket, and
a missing displaced trait.
Yeah, he's so obviously, they've talked about doing a trade audit, and finally, thank you, Otto, for your years of tireless, thankless work in trade audits. And
here,
here's another one for you. Add it to the pile. Missing some stuff, needs some improvement. He belongs in a Tuesday pack, I guess, if that makes any sense. Because there was a time period where the best crew was locked behind a paywall on Tuesdays. And then it became a shift almost where the best crew was put behind features like Chances Taken Kirk or behind events. And Tuesday pack crew were just kind of, forgettable. And to me, if you want to skip a Tuesday pack, you can sleep well on Monday night knowing that on Tuesday you're fine. Because if you went fishing for him in this pack, you're probably going to get something like Human Taurus, or even worse, Human Saru, who, what a terrible card. I mean, it's almost like somebody got him nerfed. What do you think, Otto?
This is probably the best / worst insult you can make. You belong in a Tuesday pack. Like, that's funny to me. Since this might be the only time people talk at length about this crew, actually, I disagree with the displaced trait. He has Temporal Agent. displaced. I think they specifically, one of the very few traits they specifically called out is, if you time travel and you have no way to get back, which, they kind of did in this episode, but that's neither here nor there. Dan, I was almost going to call out Dirty Pool on your part for just reading off the bases. What are we, 2016? But, that's something that we talk about a lot. The degrees of separation, the value over replacement, and percentage-wise, a very close crew. What's missing, basically, is the collection value, and I think that does a lot of the heavy lifting. Hashtag follow the traits, where she's number 1 in Voyage Antimatter, he's number 662. And Human has a lot of competition. So even though they have almost identical raw score, that's why you can see the difference in the rating on the Big Book site. That factors in all sorts of different things. I think you ask what would make you want this crew. For me, it's the potential collections. It's the untapped traits. I personally like to grab crew who I know are going to increase in value. It brings me joy to see, hey, past you made a good decision. You picked a crew who you think could increase in value. So Saboteur, Shapeshifter, Duelist Crafty, maybe Suliban if the game's still running in 8 years. Frank, please stop laughing. So, a top 60 crew for potential collection rating, I think he should improve there almost certainly.
So I like all these points. I think that we can agree that while he certainly has some strong skills, I think most of the other things that he does pretty poorly. Poor collection crew. His hammer is suboptimal for arena, just not even worth looking at. The one thing I'll make a point of, though, is when he does hit the portal and Fleet Boss battle nodes start coming back for more Suliban cards, there's a lot of unique triplets that we're going to see. He matches with Saren with his own alter ego Silik. And I think even with the Human mixed in here, we're going to see Suliban Reed into the mix. So a lot more of those are going to pop up to you node solvers out there. Otto, how's your node solving going? Any Sulibans yet?
I'm going to out myself. I let the other folks in the fleet do that, and I send them baked goods as a thank you. I wanted to call out, in case you first saw Silik when he popped on the Big Book, he was tier 7. They actually stealth updated his stats, so he's a little bit stronger here and there. That's why you see him now in a tier 5.
So I like talking about golds, but I love talking about purples that we're going to freeze after their event is done. And one of the ones coming up soon is going to be Acting Chief Engineer Joe Carey. Minor character, but did appear, I think, in 4 episodes of Voyager. Ill-fated crew, spoiler alert. But what do we have to say about this little purple here? This is a kind of a unique one here. I do like his art. It's a great likeness. I think on the show notes here I said his art is smoking.
We're laughing on the inside, Dan.
I know. I'm alone. I'm so alone.
I'm trying to figure out how to make a bridge artwork with him and someone else to enter the contest over on the Tilting Point Games Discord so I can win 750 dilithium, because Jim Carrey here is trying to shake a hand, and I can just imagine there's got to be another card that's doing the too slow.
Maybe use Concerning Flight Janeway. She's looking up. Maybe that's her. Oh wait, but she's facing the other direction, isn't she?
Well, she's at the ATL airport looking up at the big board, trying to figure out where her gate is so she can catch her flight. Because it's very concerning, because she had a close connection. I don't know why else they gave her that name.
I think we need to pair him with Dexa, who's got her hand up in the air like, too slow. So that's all we got. There's not much to say apart from, typical purple. We got some collection value. The one thing I did want to note, though, for our newer players and newer listeners, he is an Eng primary purple, and one that is earnable from playing in events is, going to be something it's great for your early rosters. You may even be able to clear a few of the elite, the middle tier Continuum missions if you're able to get him fully fused from the event. And get some equipment on him, so earn a little bit of quantum, retrieve a better crew. But I think that's enough said about our little purple acting chief engineer here. I do have a bit of a controversial crew coming up here in the twin Mistresses of Evil, the Delaney sisters. Really striking artwork. The episode's memorable. Captain Proton's adventures are an interesting high point for Voyager. What about playing with these crew in the game? Otto, I'd like to hear your thoughts on yet another Command Dip Sec crew. Why is this one worth talking about at all?
You'd have to tell me. They're not that bad. I'll quote No Name Namer here because he kind of went to bat for them in our Big Book Discord server. He says transient Cloudflare issues or your cache is borked. But besides that, he did say some other things for Big Book Plus subscribers that he kind of went to bat for him. And I had the opposite idea. Actually, this made me look at our tier weights. I'm like, why do we need another DIP primary command DIPSec? I kind of list the things I don't personally need for my roster. I don't need more CDS. I don't need more DIP bases. I don't need a second level arena crew because you can only fit 4 on your ship. If they're not the best, they're kind of the bust. And only one collection right now. And I did just say for Human Silik, I like to see that collection count grow. And, it surely will. But there's also, they may have a trait or two that they don't necessarily, it's not accurate. So we may even see that potential count go down at some point. The requisite power is there, surely. And as an event reward, as we all described earlier, we're more likely to shell out some effort than we are some cash. So I don't think this is a bad crew, but when I see tier 3, I think, okay, you could plug this into any roster and they'd contribute. And I'm not really seeing that here. Number one for the skill order, I think, is the big selling point because that actually is for the command DIPSec permutation. There are 2 crew in the top 250 unboosted. It's them and another card that I can't pronounce, but it's an Elnor variant. So, if you are getting that granular with your roster, maybe you're a Frank or a Dan who are pretty late game and looking into that minutia, I could see value there. But for a regular player looking at this mega in totality, throw that last star on Janeway and don't worry about too much about collecting another command DIPSec option.
Thanks. How about your roster, Jenos? Where's the value here?
I think that they would contribute in a limited way for maybe 6 months to a year because of the skill set not being there, because their trait list is somewhat limited. Just looking at the traits and looking at the art, I think that the trait list is probably okay, given I think that this is meant to be the holographic representation of these characters from the Holo program, and because they're missing Starfleet and Federation, it's not meant to be the actual Delaney sisters. So I think the trait list is probably okay from that perspective. And eventually we will see them added to the what is the name of the black and white collection? I'm blanking on it. Fake fan, right? They'll eventually add that collection. You'll get a 10x and some ancillary benefits there. So I like the art. I like I think it's stirring. It's cool. It's from a fun, series of episodes of Voyager. So I'll grab a couple of copies. I might even cite them after the next honor sale, just to tick that box. So I like it. It's fun.
The Captain
cool.
Proton collection.
Let's get some copies.
Yep, Captain Proton.
Is that
And
literally
Frank,
what it's called?
No. I would actually have to open the game to tell you what it's actually called. But
who does that anymore?
Oh, is it called Bride of Chaotica, maybe?
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Well done.
Yay, we eventually got it. Good job, us. We play this game. Listen to us.
I'll just jump into that seg and throw a little bit more negative shade on these. The value is absolutely not the collections with 1 at launch, and sure, you're going to launch Bride of Chaotica on there to have 2, and Voyager, which is coming soon, spoiler alert, so 3 collections, boom, boom, boom. But they just, I'm happy that these 2 finally got in because they were kind of the standouts for years of the missing components to having the complete suite of Bride of Chaotica cards. And we've had events about Bride of Chaotica. We've gotten the Captain Proton ship, but we never got the Delaney sisters or the Mistresses of Evil, whichever one it's going to be. And I was really excited when I heard we're finally getting them, and then I saw this, and ultra nerd moment, and being just so picky and granular that I don't need to, but I got really down because these are listed as holograms, and this art is literally from the episode when they're inside the hallway talking to Tom Paris in flesh and blood. They are not holograms, and they are not black and white. The artist took a screenshot from, Paramount Plus app, and then put a black and white filter on it and called them holograms. No. There's 1,000 other references you could have used for the actual, you know, in the Captain Proton show, but no, just missing the mark.
Human Neelix all over again.
Yes. Oh God,
See,
how terrible.
Normally, this is where I'd make the I hope someone got fired for that blunder, but given the recent past, I will refrain from saying that.
So what I'm hearing here is we could have had a gem, but instead we just got the holograms. Any fans of 80s cartoons?
See, I had raised the bar with an Iron Sheik reference, and then you took that
I'm
bar
dragging it back down again.
and you just
To toy pushers. Well, I think if the Twin Mistresses landed on my nuclear-powered space blimp, they may be bunking in cryo with Lonzac within a year. Not too excited. May take the week off. And I guess the other thing I will say though is that we can't really get by without talking about the arena ability, which actually comes in at rank number 22. It actually has a pretty decent uptime. The Twin Mistresses will get you plus 15,000 to crit bonus with a full whopping plus 10 to attack and absolutely no drawbacks. So great cycle time, decent crit bonus, but we're comparing her to a number of other superior crew, and if you're looking for your attack buffing crew, you're really going to go with the best. And currently we have Vox available with an even larger crit bonus in the Honor Hall. If you don't have the honor to spare, you can get by with Almighty Klon if you've been lucky enough to earn him from the gauntlets. There's just so many different avenues to pull a great high-level arena attack buffer, and these other ones you may already have at further stars. Captain Tuvok, if you've earned all 3 stars from the recent month-long objective event that we had, he's going to do some great work for you, and certainly even more powerful than the Twin Mistresses. So I think that's enough said. I'm going to have a little bit of a happy conversation with you about our last future crew here. And this was a big surprise to, I think, everybody in the Timelines community, and something we've been looking forward to for years. And we have the pleasure to announce that Harry Mudd, the original Roger Carmel persona, will be entering the game within probably the month. Who else is a TOS fan and has been long looking for Roger Carmel to have his shining happy face in the game? Jenos is waving his hand. Tell me a little bit about your memories of Harry Mudd and what you're hoping for.
Yeah, Harry Mudd was the prototypical scoundrel, against the righteous and the proper and the formal Starfleet, and just stymieing Kirk left and right in his flowing language and his mustache. It's the funny campiness of TOS, and thank God we're crossing our fingers that he's going to get into the game this time. Thank God we're getting him. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he looks like he's going to be introduced. We don't have a whole lot of details, and we don't want to really announce stats before he's finalized in the game, because these crew may receive buffs before they hit the stage. But we do see that he'll be entering the game as a DIP primary with Command and Eng, so not too far of a cry from some of the crew we've already been talking about today. But really closely aligned with Mirror Mariner, Federation President Archer. Frank, I'm sure that you've been running these crew. Do you have your Mirror Mariner yet? Have you ever gotten her from the Gauntlet?
I did. I was very fortunate to only have to play Gauntlet for 3 weeks after she was released to get her. And then I said, I'll never play again. And then they made another Gauntlet exclusive. This is fantastic. Roger, this card, a version of this card, has been literally in the game files or planned to be released since 2016. And his estate blocked it, as a few of the old actors that had passed away did. He was a big part of my childhood, not just because he played this over-the-top, eccentric character that you just, from an episode that is ingrained in Trek history and has transcended not only TOS, but gone on to DS9 and everything else. But he was just camp. When everything was camp in the 60s, he defined camp. But he was also a great voice actor, and anyone who grew up in the 80s couldn't miss him if they watched G.I. Joe or Transformers, because he was on there. And so it's very, very, it pleases me greatly to see him coming to the game, and potentially when everybody sees the artwork, they'll know it is gorgeous artwork. They did him right. They really honor him with this, and a good, a good skill lineup, a good stats. Hopefully they stay locked in. This is not the news. This is not the fact. This is just my prediction. I think he will be the next Continuum exclusive gold after the Borg Queen. Because how do you follow the Borg Queen?
Yeah, I hope they keep that chain running. I really was hoping that they would do more than just hand out some free dilithium. It kind of, even though it's the premium currency in the game, we have other ways of earning it. And to me, it kind of cheapened the Continuum mission experience to just be given more of the same currency that we've been kind of getting a trickle of from other means. Really happy to have something iconic show up, and I agree, he's just that iconic. He could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Borg Queen as one of the most memorable figures in Star Trek. So Jenos, regardless of how Harry Mudd enters the game, are you going to be gunning for this crew? How strongly do you feel?
Absolutely. I will definitely. I'll throw down some premium currency. I will compete in an event. I will finish my Continuum missions. I will buy him out of the faction store, whatever. Probably won't throw down $50 from the web store though, so I'm sorry. I probably will not do that.
They have given feedback that they probably won't be pursuing that avenue again, so fortunate for that.
I will ask this of everyone. What's everyone's impression of Rainn Wilson as Harry Mudd, and do you want him to come back in Strange New Worlds and reprise the character yet again?
Otto, are you the Office fan? Are you a Rainn Wilson fan? What do you think? Is he going to do justice to a legendary character, or is this just an impossible feat?
I became an Office fan only in recent years, and I do love him on that show. I didn't love his portrayal of Mudd, mostly because Roger Carmel is the fucking man, and you can't follow it. Sorry, editor, you'll have some work to do. You can't follow that. You just can't. So I actually appreciate that he didn't do a one-for-one take on that. And the time travel episode that he's in Discovery is among my favorite. But dude, Roger Carmel, are you kidding me? Let me back up a second. Sorry to steal your thunder here. Stats side of things, I do like him. Power, whatever. He's got like 7 or 8 viable traits, which is all more than you need to justify going after this crew. But more importantly, he's got the fucking belt. We talked about his episode. Look how big his belt is, and they kept that in the art in the game. So, if whoever does the 4 Mudd bridge crew, like hats off to you, giant 10-gallon hats off to you that Mudd is wearing, because this is definitely going to take some crowns for favorite art in the game.
I hope we get to build the belt as an equipment.
Oh, it's gotta be one of the equipable items. Closing the loop. So far, we see 3 collections: Criminal Mind, Original Thinking, as usual. But we're burying the lead. Come on, it's Harry Mudd. So open your wallets, folks. Adjust those wallets. So I think that wraps up our cruise segment. So I'm going to open up to some general thoughts here. And, we typically like to plan a little bit of a segment, but we had so many great crew to talk about this week. I wanted to make sure they got the credit. A little bit of cleanup, though. So Otto, what have you been doing this week in the game? What has captured your attention? What are you having fun doing in Star Trek Timelines this week?
That's easier said than done for a veteran of the game, and that's no shade on the game by any means, but it's kind of like that Voyager episode with Quinn. When you've seen it all, when you've been the dog and the painting, you need new stuff to focus on. So right now I'm looking at Morn, what's his name? Morn in my Dabo. That brings me joy. I'm looking at the leaked art for Harry Mudd for Big Book Plus subscribers. That brings me joy. Scrolling through the time portal and seeing Homesteader Chakotay does not bring me joy. So I guess right now my kick is art, and maybe I'll take a little detour from my retrievals and work on some fun art projects instead.
Akuchi Moya. Jenos, where's the fun?
You're fired.
Damn it.
No, not you,
my
Jenos.
Fun.
Good. Thanks for taking the hit for me, Jenos. I live for another cast.
My fun this week is that I retrieved my first copy of Gautama Retz, who was portrayed so gracefully and so awesomely by Daniel Day Kim. I've had a lot of exposure to Daniel Day Kim recently. He is of course the star of Hawaii Five-0, the reboot, which I recently completed and enjoyed, and was recently watching Raya and the Last Dragon, and he's one of the voices there. And I saw a trailer for the new Avatar, Last Airbender series, and he's in that. So it's like the man's everywhere, and damn, that man is handsome. So there's my joy.
And they covered him up with all that makeup for Star Trek. That's a shame.
Yeah. Oh, he's in Enterprise too, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Frank, your smiling face looks like it's got a few fun things to talk about today.
Absolutely not. Skirmishes are fun. Everybody loves skirmishes except for people who hate it. So I'm enjoying getting to do something different other than dragging Nifty up a leaderboard of a faction event. I got omelette du fromage from the Gauntlet unexpectedly from a 6-box. And I yelped out loud. I think I had a drink in my hand, and I threw it. I was so excited because I can quit Gauntlet again for 4 months. So, thankfully, and much to the happiness of other Gauntleteers, because I was having to go into Discord and tell people, do not join a Gauntlet for the next 10 minutes, because I am, and it's not going to be pretty.
I have to interject. Our dear friend of the show, El Marto, has mentioned on multiple occasions when I've shared the omelette du fromage from Dexter's Laboratory, that in French is actually omelette au fromage, and he would be mad at me if I didn't mention that and correct everybody. So, as a native French speaker, I have to do that for El Marto. Sorry, guys.
Well, it's a good thing that French is not a real language. It's just a type
It's a
of
dead
toast.
language, right?
And it's a good thing that we could really deliver for all of our Big Book podcast listeners who tuned in just for the cheesy jokes.
Oh.
God, how do you do this? How do you keep getting away with this?
Dan, you're
That
not
is
getting off
just-
the hook this easy. What is your joy?
I have to say, for all the work that
It wasn't
is,
that joke.
yeah, it's cracking awful jokes for you guys. I get to be a dad and do the dad jokes for this cast. Actually, it is. It's hanging out with every one of you, Frank, Jenos, Otto, my Star Trek Timelines compadres, but also my fleet. We solve nodes together, and that's part of my morning cup of coffee ritual, is to sit down and bang out a few nodes before work begins. So even though it's a little bit of extra effort, it gives me a sense of accomplishment, and so I do appreciate that puzzle solving aspect of the game. I'm glad it's there. Well, folks, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. I look forward to many more Big Book podcasts for you. To our listeners, our mailbag is open. Please feel free to chime in everywhere you receive this podcast, whether that be Spotify, any of the other podcast outlets, or YouTube, or drop a line. Join our Discord over at Trek Time, and we'll include the link everywhere that this podcast is released. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.